Hello guys, and welcome back to another episode of Kerbal Space Program. So, I would like to introduce you to the Airship Mark II. As you can see right away, a little bit of a failure, a little bit. It turns out in the construction of the vehicle that the air ballast at the back, which was just there for structural support, it was there for the communication array, it was there for the solar panels and the legs. But it turns out that it was still being used as an air ballast as well, and so that became buoyant. Once we tried to inflate the main canopy, which you can see above the well, to the right of the unit right now, but it's meant to be above the unit. But anyway, that was fixed. It means Bob has to do some manual control for the whole piloting of the vehicle, but that's not a problem. Bob can handle that, and it saves time having to, instead of bringing it back to the spaceplane hangar, just let Bob go ahead and do it. So yes, this is the Airship Mark II. The idea of this mission is to explore closer to home, explore Kerb in itself. Bob, for the primary mission of Airship Mark I, the maiden voyage, his mission brief is to head to the North Pole, see what's there, see the ice, see how we can utilize the ice in our space program. And you can see Bob now is manually filling the main air ballast and to work out the buoyancy. The problem with that is, instead of being able to control your vertical speed directly through the computer systems that control the air ballasts, you have to control the buoyancy directly manually, which means your vertical velocity is being controlled secondary. You don't have direct control over the vertical velocity. Little bit of a problem to get working, but you know, it's fine. The engines we have on the vehicle here are some propellers. They're electrically powered, that's why there's solar panels on the back. They can also fold away as well for landing. So the propellers will fold away, the legs will come out, and then you'll be able to land properly. But as you can see, the whole vehicle flies exceptionally well. It can run, this is at about maybe 2% thrust, maybe up to maybe 5% thrust. That's only because we've only got 8 small solar panels, or 6 small solar panels maybe on there, which means we can't run our engines at maximum efficiency. But even so, we get about 50 meters per second, which is fantastic for this little vehicle. I mean, if we were able to run our engines even just twice as much, like twice as many solar panels, we'll be getting 100 meters per second. That's not bad at all. But yes, we have to go with the slow, steady pace of 50 meters per second. We can overclock the engines, push them all the way up to 100% efficiency, or 100% thrust. Does drain the electrical charge rather quickly, but if ever we need to get out of Dodge, then we can go ahead and do that. You can also see on the vehicle that there is a material science bay, just making sure that works right now. We're going to take some material science information once we get to the pole. Also on the back of the vehicle, you can't quite see it now, but there is a antenna and a satellite dish. You can just see the edge of the dish there. Satellite dish actually reflects off the underside of the air canopy, the air ballast, the balloon, and that allows it to communicate back with mission control. Does have local control though, because Bob is on the side of it. That's why up in the top left there you can see the indication is local control, but the yellow indicator next to local control does mean we have connection back to Kerbal Space, the Kerbal Space Center. But anyway, we're just going to continue on our way to the North Pole here at this steady clip of around 50 meters per second. Plenty of life support, plenty of food and water and such. In the middle of the vessel you can see a whole bunch of life support devices. As you can see, we're now coming up to rather large mountain. We could navigate around it, but Bob, he is an adventurous man. We're going to see if our balloon can get to a higher altitude. Should be fine. I mean, Bob at this point still has communication with the Kerbal Space Center, and they have all the topological data. They have all the geographical and the maps. They can tell Bob if he's going to be able to get over a mountain instead of going around it. And as you can see, they're right, because, well, they're rocket scientists, and rocket scientists know pretty much everything. That's why it's called rocket science. But we're able to get over the mountain, no problem. We also have secondary science experiments. We have some mystery goo containers. Those are just so we can see when the change in biome happens and make sure we are ready for that. You can get a nice view of the actual antenna now, the radio transmitter at the back of the vessel there, the red and white stripes. Also on board are a couple of cameras. You can see the black dot at the bottom of the spacecraft. That is an onboard camera facing downwards. There is also one at the nose as well, facing forwards. And we can see the map view here. We're getting quite far north already. Maybe a fifth or a sixth of the way to our goal. Not bad going for, what, 27 minutes into the mission? Now this is the view from our bottom camera, our downwards facing camera. You can see the shadow of the vehicle. This is also at 4 times acceleration. It's just an indication of the kind of terrain we go over. This is giving the science guys back home some great scientific data about the Kerbal terrain, the Kerbin terrain, what it looks like, what it's made of, how it kind of just is, really, which will aid in future exploration of both the planet Kerbin and the rest of the Kerbal system. And now this is the view from the front-facing camera, the nose camera, which looks off into the distance. Again at 4 times acceleration, and again giving some of the science folk back home some good topological data, good information about what makes up the planet Kerbin. And Bob is always happy to make these time-lapse shots. He enjoys the view, really. That's why he chose to take this mission. He enjoys the view, he enjoys exploring closer to home. Buzzing past the mountains and the valleys, the craters, looking off into the distance to see what challenges he will face next. At this point, Bob is just testing the engines here. You may have seen something. We have now lost communication with the Kerbal Space Center. And you heard a little bit of an explosion there. Bob was just testing the engines. He was trying to work out what the problem was. He doesn't realize he's lost communications yet. Yeah, he's trying to work it out. Testing the engines, seeing if they cause an explosion if they're at a high speed. Doesn't seem to be, but coming up in just a second here. This is a slow motion replay of the event. You can see our aerial drops away. We lose communication. We do still have the satellite dish, however, but we have lost complete communication, which leads Bob to believe, he's worked this out now, it leads him to believe that that also is damaged. And as you can see, when he moves the vehicle, the satellite seems to wobble, the dish seems to be unstable, and indeed enough wobbling dislodges the satellite. So Bob now is completely on his own. He has no communication whatsoever with ground. You can still hear ground trying to communicate with Bob, Bob trying to communicate with ground. Ground, obviously, they don't know what's going on because they have no communication with Bob. Now Bob has a decision to make. He can continue on with his mission, or he can return home. He's maybe an hour and 45 minutes out from home, it seems. No, an hour and something. It's hard to read. It's very small. But Bob is going to make a decision here as to whether he continues on with his mission. But first, he wants to assess the damage. So he's going to try and land in this kind of crater, this little bit of valley here. See what he can work out, see if he can muster up something. Troubleshoot the problem. And it's obviously easier to troubleshoot a problem when you're on the ground and not nearly a kilometer in the air. Luckily the vehicle is nice and easy to land. It's just a case of slowing it down, turning it around, slowing it down, and letting the ballast take control of your vertical speed. Again, this would have been easier if Bob had direct control via the computers of his vertical speed, but like we discussed at the beginning of this, Bob does not have direct control of his speed. He only has direct control of his buoyancy. But Bob's a smart man. He's trained for this. He knows what he's doing. Maybe he can work something out. Hopefully he can work something out. And also just assessing where he is in Kerbal. Still in the highlands. Not quite where he wants to be for his mission. It's kind of playing into where he, or what his decision is going to be. I mean, if he's got some new scientific data, if he's been able to travel to at least a new biome, then maybe he could return. It's not the objective of the mission, it's obviously not the pole, but it's something new, and it is new science data, which is always good. Engine is currently running at 0%, still drifting slightly, but our horizontal speed is only about 14 meters per second. Our vertical speed is dropping quite rapidly because the buoyancy of the vessel has been decreased significantly. Currently at minus 30 meters per second and climbing quite rapidly. Bob realizes this now, tries to increase the buoyancy of the envelope. Not really working, or not working fast enough. Crashes into the ground. It seems to have not damaged anything on the vehicle, but it certainly has shaken Bob up quite a bit. But Bob, in his cool, calm, and collected manner, he continues to try his descent and land successfully. Coming in quite hard again, but from less of an altitude. With the springiness of the legs, the vehicle tends to bounce. Bob is now noticing that the legs of the front legs of the vehicle are damaged, trying to work out what is happening with those. It seems that the impact with the ground caused them to kind of deploy halfway even, brake slightly. But it should be able to land in theory. Question is whether the engines will smash into the ground too, because obviously they're not folded up yet. So Bob now tilting the vehicle backwards towards its hind legs. Bring it in for a nice slow descent this time. About 2 meters per second, climbing slightly. And getting ready to reduce the buoyancy to 0 once the vehicle has landed, so as not to bounce. Nice and slow landing, less than 3 meters per second onto the hind legs, and it tips onto the front legs, but it is a successful landing. The engines don't seem to have cut into the ground, which is always a bonus. Landing was a success. Slightly tilted forward, but that is fine, not a problem for Bob. Bob is now going to shut down the engines, so they're not causing a problem. The engines have to be shut down when Bob leaves the vessel for safety reasons, and he's going to retract the propellers, again, safety reasons. And you can see the balloon fold away nicely there. Okay, so Bob is on the ground now. Testing out the cameras. Cameras still work. Still no communication with ground, but apart from that, the vessel seems to function properly. I'm just going to go on a quick EVA here, just to assess the damage, see if he can fix the legs as well, because that's always a bonus. Making sure he can get back onto the ladder as well, which he seems to be able to do. Just taking a surface sample, seeing where he is, seeing if there's any new science data here. It doesn't really seem to be. And Bob is going to repair the leg. There we go. Legs are functioning properly once again, or that one is at least. And he's also going to repair the other leg. Excellent. Now he's got to try and get back into the vessel. Unfortunately, the science guys built the ladder a little tiny bit too high. With all the equipment that Bob has, Bob can't jump quite high enough to get onto the vessel. But unfortunately, with the jetpack, he just has enough oomph to get there, luckily. And he's able to climb back into the vessel and board once again. Bob now thinking about what he's going to do, whether he wants to continue, whether he wants to stop the mission. He doesn't have any new science data. He's checking once again. It's something. It's something for Bob, but it's not quite enough. The pole is where the information was at. The pole was going to give brilliant scientific value. Bob knows this. Bob also testing out a new system here with the vessel to try and get it to make getting back into the vessel easier by making the vessel kneel on one of its legs, the leg closest to the ladder. It actually brings the ladder closer to the ground. It doesn't affect the functionality of the vehicle. It does make it a little more unstable as it's only resting on 3 legs, and it's cocked its back leg into the air like it's going to urinate on a lamppost. But it's not really a problem. Bob can handle that, especially on the flat grounds of Kerbin here. It's not a huge problem at all. As long as Bob can get back into the vessel, he's quite happy. And Bob heading out to the front of the vehicle. He wants to record a video message for ground. Say, hello, I'm fine. The vessel is a bit squiffy, but it's not a problem, really. I'm going to continue onto the pole. You'll probably not see this, but he is going to leave the hard drive on this landing spot, just in case they come looking for him. They do know his last location. They do know his heading, so they'd be able to try and track him, at least have some kind of idea where he's going, and maybe they'll investigate and find the hard drive, understand where he was trying to go, or that he wanted to continue the mission, and then be able to look for him further north. And Bob, he has decided he will continue the mission. He left the video message. He's happy. The control center is probably not happy, but Bob, he knows once he gets all that scientific data back, they are going to be ecstatic with him. So now just inflating the canopy once again to get off the ground, and going to continue on with the mission, continue north towards science victory. I'd also like to take this opportunity to talk about what's going to happen with Kerbal Space Program as a series on my channel in the next year, in the new year. I'm going to end this current series, but we're going to bring something back, something new, something of a higher production value. Sorry, it's going to be inspired by actual NASA, the real NASA, which is exciting. I'm not gonna spoil anything for you, but it is going to hopefully be a lot better than what we currently have. A lot more interesting, a lot more exciting, and like I said, a higher production value, which is all round better to watch, really. So look out for that in the new year. Between now and then, there's going to be a couple of special episodes on Monday, a couple of special things, maybe an ad break and something like that. But like I said, in the new year, we'll be bringing Kerbal Space Program back. Now, I am going to be continuing with the same map. The idea that I'm going with kind of helps to have a system already set up. We've already done some science here. We've done some exploration. We've got communication satellites in orbit, things like that. So that's going to definitely help move the series on faster, which is a good thing, as will become apparent when you know what the series actually is. So yes, look out for that in the new year. Hopefully you guys can be excited for that. So Bob has continued on with the mission here. He's gone quite a bit further north. He's actually waited a night, which means it's now at a 5-hour mission, nearly 6 hours, or getting towards 6 hours. But he has come across this mountain range here, quite far north. Obviously, without his communication to ground, he doesn't have access to the topological data. So he doesn't know what route ground had planned for him. He has to go kind of by the seat of his pants, really. He's kind of got to work everything out on the fly. He's going to see what he can do to get past this mountain range. There is a little bit of a dip here. Hopefully he can fly through some kind of valley, and that'll always be cool. Trapped between the two rocks, flying through the valley. It'll be a good publicity as well once he gets back home. The engine is being pushed at a little bit more than their current rate can allow with the electrical charge, just so we've got enough oomph to push the vehicle actually upwards on the engines over this valley. It's a little bit too high for the balloon. Luckily it just gets over. We end up at about, I think, 20 meters clearance above the ground, but it luckily makes itself over the valley here. Engine is still being pushed at near maximum, but they are charging up slightly. Bob having a quick look around here. Not actually a valley, or with another exit, which is unfortunate. He's going to have to make the snap decision to turn around, which he does now, but he has to push the engines towards maximum speed to slow down quick enough. But doing that, he doesn't have enough electrical charge. One of the engines burns out, the vehicle twists, Bob crashes, multiple explosions happening. Bob rolling down this steep incline, a vertical speed of nearly 10 meters per second. Oftentimes bouncing up into the air, spinning wildly, revolutions not even known how fast. Dangerously close to blacking out at this point. Often bouncing maybe 5 meters into the air, spinning wildly down the cliff face, continuing to bounce, and then slowly coming to rest. Unfortunately, coming to a rest face downwards. The hatch is obstructed. Hopefully, ground will be able to find Bob, find where he crashed, and retrieve him. But until then, that is another episode of Kerbal Space Program. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I shall see you in the new year.